Hello and welcome to another video of my opening series, Mastering the Basics on how to play against the Sicilian. More specifically today, we're gonna cover the Sveshnikov variations other than the Pelican. The Sveshnikov variations are extremely popular on online chess, especially the ones that we're gonna cover today. I myself have actually encountered all of these lines that I'm gonna show you on tournaments this year. So you will find them for sure if you decide to play the Open Sicilian. Without further ado, let's get into it. So as we cover the Pelican, we're gonna see some of the transpositions that can get into these lines that can take you back into a Pelican. But if you do want to learn how to play against the Pelican, then I recommend you to watch my previous video on how to play against it. So we're gonna this time we're just gonna cover the other line. So in the main line for this video, we're gonna cover the E5 order, but I also wanna touch on the other lines that I mentioned but did not cover in the previous video, and that's how to play against knight db5 when black plays the move bishop c5, or when black plays the move bishop b4. Those two moves are not main lines, but they're moves that you need to do. You need to know. For example, bishop b4 was played a lot by world champion Vladimir Kramnik. He had really good results with it and he equalized most of the time. The strongest move against bishop b4 is to play the response a3, and this is one of the reasons we want that knight sitting on b5. I have seen so many people that they like to put the knight on b3, but the knight on b5 is really powerful. It's not only for attacking reasons, so like knight d6 check, but also for defending reasons like protecting the knight on c3. Here black is forced to take on c3. Otherwise, if you go backwards, I would probably just go b4, then go knight d6, which is extremely dangerous, or I just go check first, then b4. So really bad. Black has to take the knight. And now after knight takes c3, black usually goes d5. In plenty of games back in the day, you can even find Kasparov and other very strong players where they used to take the pawn first, and then after pawn takes d5, followed by bishop d3 with a slightly edge for white, giving white some really convenient and very easy to play endgame. White won many games, but like I said, Vladimir Kramnik found very solid ways of playing, like this plan bishop g4, bishop h5, bishop g6, and it's actually very difficult, even though the isolated pawn gives white a very clear path to advantage. There is a new way of playing that I'm pretty sure has been played earlier, but it was not as popular, and you can find it in the database, but it's maybe not the main line, not the one that's the most played, and that is bishop d3. I actually remember seeing this move played by Lenier Dominguez, with a really good result on a pretty recent game. And after bishop d3, the idea is that we want to leave the bishop on c8. And if white decides to, for example, take this pawn, the idea is that we want to take, and then after bishop takes e4, we are going into this endgame that it seems like white had an issue with putting the king in the center, but the reality is that white has the bishop pair and a very comfortable endgame. If you want to know more about this position, I recommend you look into this game, Yu Yanyi versus Alexei Sarana from 2024. Very good game on how and why won this game. So I'm not gonna continue here because I just want to guide you into what I think is a great position for you to play. So this is good. Now we go back here and there's another possibility for black, and that is to play the move d4. This is a little more concerning because black wants to go e5. It feels a little more annoying, but the reality is that we still have the bishop pair. So all you have to do here is to go knight e2. Black is gonna play e5 to open up the bishop, and then now we just castle. Black is probably gonna castle at some point, and then in this game, Dominguez played, for example, h3. Not a big deal, but we wanna maybe at some point play the move f4. We also wanna go knight g3. There's a lot of options, and we also wanna go b4, which is the move that was played in this game. For example, black played the move rook e8, and then Dominguez played b4. This position is also very comfortable for white because white has the bishop pair, and it's really hard for these black knights to find a decent spot. So if you want more info on this game, I also recommend you looking into the game Dominguez with white against Johan Christensen, another very strong GM, where Dominguez won in a rapid game. So definitely play this position, again, comfortable for white. That will cover the annoying move bishop b4. So now we're gonna talk about bishop c5, which has become probably one of the most popular online moves that you can find at a high level, grandmaster level, on websites like chess.com. I've played it against Daniel Dubov, I played it against Sarana, and many other very strong GMs that are blitz specialists and very annoying. So the line that I have found that is the most comfortable for white without danger is bishop f4 directly. Plenty of games I've played with knight d6, king e7, bishop of, king f8, king e7, bishop f4, e5. This is also good for white, but I do not recommend this. I think black gets a lot more initiative. That is completely unnecessary. So I recommend playing the move bishop f4, a lot stronger, a lot more solid, forcing black to basically castle, because we want to go knight c7, and that is devastating. So black has to castle, and now we have this incredible move bishop c7. If you've never seen this position, well, I'm sure you're gonna love it, because after bishop c7, black is practically forced to go queen e7 first. White goes bishop d6, and now we get rid of the good bishop, this annoying bishop pointing to f2. Black has to take the bishop. There's nothing else. We go queen takes e6. We're very happy to play an endgame like this. This is definitely not something black wants. I mean, this will be extremely uncomfortable. Also, we probably even have knight b5. Very bad position for black. So black has to try to make this really awkward move, but very interesting, queen d8. And again, this is all theory. We're not creating anything. We're just gonna castle. The idea for black is to go a6. And it's kind of a little trick. Black wants you to play knight c7, but then your knight is trapped. And then with the move like rook a7, it becomes very difficult. So we're not gonna get fancy again. We're just gonna go back. We control the square d6. We also control the file that puts pressure on this pawn. The position is already very good for white. And then here, black has to make a very difficult move, but also theoretical knight e7. Then the idea for black is black wants to go b5. They want to go bishop b7. And they want to somehow make you go away at some point with the knight e8, d6. It's almost like a counter-attacking position. Black is a little worse on the center, on the space, but they want to get it back and they want to create some sort of attack. Now, there's two moves here that I'm recommending, and you can pick whichever you like. For example, is f3. This one I have played it myself plenty of time in tournaments with great results. The idea is simple. I want to protect this pawn so that I can free up my knight in case I need it. Because, you know, black is want to play b5, maybe some sort of b4. I want to deal that by playing f3. So I think f3 eventually will be a necessary move. But I also recommend the move h4. That is actually the latest way of playing, with the idea of going h5, h6, and possibly also passing the rook through the third rank. And, you know, h4 is such a common move in the Scotch. We talked about it already. Well, maybe another time for you to play h4. There is a recent game that I recommend is Mishra versus some guy called Feud Stark. I don't even know how to pronounce his name, but is a recent game of Mishra. If you look him up, h4 2600 GM. How to play this position. There's also other games that you can find on h4. Is the latest way to play on this position. Very nice, and white is doing great. f3 is the other one that I like, and I played it myself with great result too. Better for white. Now we're gonna go into the other complicated line in the Sveshnikov, which is basically not going knight f6. We've talked about this enough already. We are gonna cover now how to play against the quick e5 line. Now, we're going to try to do some sort of transposition in this line to get back into the pelican that we won, the one that was mentioned in the previous video. So we're going to go knight b5 as well. Now, black here has to deal with the fact that you're doing knight d6. The best move by far is to play d6. I have actually encountered in some games the move a6. This is something that some people do. Even international masters, I actually played it before, and I was surprised that they did this move. The idea is that they want to go queen f6. But in this position, you can either take, or you can just simply go queen d2. I actually like this move specifically, queen d2, not queen d1. Queen d1 is also good. It gets into a really messy position that white has to know a lot of theory, but it's very good for white. Now, queen d2, though, is a move that I tried a couple of times with great results, so I recommend to do either one of these two. You can check more theory on this. Queen takes queen is what black wants. Also a little better, but it gets a little more difficult, but because there's some knight b4s and d5 ideas that black gets some counterplay. So I really like the idea of queen d2, and you should look it up, learn this position. The idea is simple. I want to get knight c3. I want to control d5. Black is just doing really bad. I have bishop pair. There's no way I'm worse. If you go queen g6, I go knight c3, and then you're better. As long as you get basically f3 maybe at some point to get this bishop out, and you don't let d5 happen, black is doing extremely well. So the other move on the main line is by far d6. All right. Now, if you play d6 here, I'm going to go knight c3. Keep in mind that if you go knight f6, I can also just go knight c3, and then we're back into some sort of pelican. And especially if you go d6, you know that we're playing bishop g5. That's what we mentioned in the previous video of the pelican, and you don't have we're not going to talk about this one today. If you go d6, knight c3, black goes a6, and is a very similar position again, right? Because you need to play a6. The reason why is because I want to play the move knight d5, which basically wins the game. You know, if you go something like bishop e7, knight d5, immediately winning the game. That's not an option for black. The other one will be knight f6, which again transposes into a pelican. That's on the other video. We're not going to talk about that, right? So now black goes a6, and just like in the pelican, when I played the move knight a3, I'm being kicked from here, but now I have a new square, and my goal in the pelican and in any of these Sveshnikov variations is to control d5. So the path to controlling d5 is a lot faster if you let me go knight c4, knight e3, knight d5 than if I have to, for example, make a move like c3 or c4 and then go knight c2, knight e3. So most people who play the Sveshnikov variations will play immediately b5 here. Now, if you go knight f6 here, well, you can probably go bishop g5. And once again, if you play b5, guess where we are? Back into the pelican. Now, if you don't play the move b5 and you try to do something like bishop b6, well, I would quickly go knight c4. Now, this is a much better version than any of the pelicans because now we're going to get that knight to e3, and it's a very good position for white. Now, this is also theoretical, but I think it's not very accurate for black. If you're going to play this, I'd rather play a regular pelican with b5. So this is not recommended for black, and that's why in this position, black will play b5 right away. They don't want to get into a pelican. They want to get into another sort of Sveshnikov where they don't have the pin. They don't have to deal with the pin. That's why people play this order here. Now, the way we do this is that once again, we are trying to transpose into a pelican. For example, if you go knight f6, we can actually go bishop g5 as well, and we're back in the pelican. So how many times, right, we see the pelican coming back, no? But now the more logical way for black here to avoid the pelican entirely is to go knight ge7, and this is actually the way that we're gonna this is the way we're gonna put this order here. Where black will goes knight g7, not letting bishop g5 really, even though it is still possible. But then the difference here is that white is not gonna go bishop g5. We're actually gonna go like Shirov, where we're gonna play the move c4. And then after c4, black has to take because there's no other move for you. You can also play the move knight ce7 is another move that I'm going to mention quickly. But this one is a much worse version for black because I will still play c4 to target the pawn on b5. And if you go knight takes knight, I'm going to take back with the e pawn because I still want to put pressure here. The idea, or one of the ideas, is that if you take me, I can simply just go take with the knight. I'm bringing my knight back and I have so much space. This position is really tough already for black. Not recommended. You also don't have the move b4 because I can at least get a check, take that pawn. Also not an option for black. Very tough position compared to what we're gonna see in the game, in the main game that we're looking today. Now, the main reason is this knight is still sitting on g8. Now, the reason for knight ge7 being better is that this knight is gonna end up being on d4. That's a little more aggressive for black. So if you go knight ge7, I'm gonna go c4 again, right? Same thing if the knight was there. You're gonna take the knight on d5 because you have to. I'm gonna go pawn takes d5, the e pawn again, right? Because I wanna be able to take that pawn. Black has to move the knight to d4, and now this becomes what? This becomes a gambit, some sort of gambit, because I'm actually taking a free pawn on b5. Black cannot take back. If you decide to take back, you're completely lost in this position. It's not even slightly better, it's just dead loss. There's not enough compensation. I got two connected pass pawns, it's over. So black's best shot here is to actually let me keep taking and play for the initiative that this knight might give you on speeding up development. So this is the best shot for black. Now in the Shirov game, Shirov decided to play the move in this game of with this Sveshnikov. He actually played an order that is totally fine. One move that you can do is bishop d3, but I really like the move bishop e3. They're both very good. The point is that I just want to get rid of this knight that's annoying me, and I don't want to deal with it. So black goes bishop g7. This is all forcing. Otherwise, I'm just taking a free pawn. And then you go bishop takes d4. Simple enough. Get rid of the knight. Yes, I'm giving up the bishop pair, but I'm getting something in exchange, and you will see what that is after you play the move bishop d3. So I'm giving up the bishop pair, but I'm actually making this bishop extremely bad. So my goal right now is to simply keep that bishop sitting there while I improve my position on the queen side. I'm also gonna castle short. Any endgame, queen trade will be fantastic for white. For example, the best move here would be long castle. I don't think you should try out something like queen e7 because I'll be happy to trade queens. I'm up a pawn. This is technically winning because your bishop pair, even though yes you have bishop pair, this bishop is really not very useful thanks to that pawn sitting on d4. It would be better for black if that pawn was not there. So after knight takes d4, after bishop d3, black will castle to try to get the check on e8. We got to castle quickly. Now in this game, black played queen g5, which is a very good move, probably one of the best move, thinking that, well, you know, I'll take that pawn. Now here you can just play rook e1, or you can play like shit off queen f3, very nice move. In fact, I don't even care so much about this pawn. If you take that pawn, you're still not really improving the bishop, which is your big problem, right? So should have played queen f3, for example, and here black played the move h5. Very, you know, nice little tactical move, trying to get some bishop g4 going, because if you go bishop g4 right away, I got queen g3, and this is really bad because now I will be forcing some sort of queen trade, maybe with h3. Very, very bad news for black because I'm still taking this pawn, and it's just horrible. I mean, you just don't have any initiative. Your bishops, this bishop specifically, not useful at all. So here black plays is h5, threatening bishop g4, so that queen g3, maybe there's an h4, trying to create some sort of initiative on the king side. But unfortunately, Bachirov just played h3, and this is just a bomb because bishop g4 is no longer possible. Now here, black is basically almost sooks one because you need to do something about this pawn. And of course, if you move the bishop anywhere, I would just continue taking your pawns. In fact, I'll be happy to trade my bishops if you let me. But black here takes the pawn, and here Shirov makes what is a slightly inaccuracy. He makes a move that definitely gives black some initiative. He takes the pawn with the bishop, and the interesting thing about this move is that it does give black some sort of pawn d3. This move here might be equalizing or giving black a big chance, because again, this is a big part of why we have an advantage, is that bishop that's stuck on the pawn, and this move might make things a little more interesting. So the easiest way to deal with this would have been to just go knight takes b5, and I want to stop the game right here because Shirov did not play knight takes b5, but I believe this is by far a better move. It is also a lot more straightforward. I'm just going a4, I'm going a5, I'm going b4, I'm just pushing those pawns. I'm going to try not to give you any sort of initiative. Black is in big trouble in this position. I mean, this is the best black can do. I would not be playing the Sveshnikov. I would not recommend it for black. And with that, guys, we are covering at least 3 different lines on how to play the Sveshnikov, plus the Pelican that's covered in the other video. You should have a very strong repertoire on how to play against the Sveshnikov variations. And I hope you guys enjoy, and I hope you guys win some good games with it. Thank you for watching.